Hey everyone, it's Anthony from Pretty Printed here. In today's video, I'll be showing you how to create a PayPal Express checkout button in your Flask app. So to do this, we're going to use both the PayPal server-side REST API along with the Python SDK for PayPal. So I noticed there wasn't a lot of documentation online for both of them used together. So I figured I'd create a video that shows you how to use both together, because there's a lot of documentation on using the server-side REST API and there's documentation on using the Python SDK, but not together. So that's what I'm going to show you in this video. And just to demonstrate what happens, you click the checkout button here and it will then generate this form on your site, so you don't have to worry about actually handling the payment information. Instead, it just opens up this pop-up to PayPal, and then they can log in with their account if they're not logged in already, and then hit pay now, and it will pay. It will deduct money from their account and then deposit it into the merchant account. So the first thing you need to do is you need to have some sandbox accounts. You need to have one that is a business account so you can accept payments, and one that is a personal account so you can send payments. The second one could be a business as well, but for my purposes, I'll be using a personal one and a business one. In my case, I have merchant at anthonyherbert.com as the business and test buyer at anthonyherbert.com for the personal. So I'll be sending a payment from test buyer to merchant. Once you have these set up, and you have to go to developer.paypal.com to set these up, you want to get the API client and the secret. So I just hit profile here on merchant because merchant will be accepting the payments. So once this loads, it's pretty slow right now for a PayPal site for some reason. Let's see if I can try that again. Okay, there we go. So API credentials, and then you'll have to create an app for it. This is all specified in the dashboard for the developer at paypal.com. So I created an app, I called it Flask, and it has my account and then a client ID and then a secret. So now that I have all that information, I can go ahead and actually create the app. So I'm going to go to the documentation for server-side REST, and I'm going to take the HTML that they have here, and I'm going to put it in my Flask app. So what I have so far is a really basic Flask app. It renders a template index.html. Index doesn't have anything. So what I'll do is I will start a document. So I'll just leave that as document, and I'll paste the code that I just copied from the PayPal site here. So you can see it has a link to the JavaScript for the checkout. Then it has some code here, and the first thing I need to do is change the environment to sandbox. In a real environment, this of course be production, but here it's going to be sandbox because I'm making fake payments. So I'm going to have to modify these two URLs, the create payment URL and the execute payment URL, so I can have something to call. So I'll explain how all this works. So what happens is you have a PayPal button that's rendered. So let me save this and actually run it so you can see this PayPal button. You can now see this PayPal button that is generated, and that's simply because I copy and pasted the code here. So what it's doing is it's going to render the button, and then it's going to use the settings here. So I have sandbox instead of production, and then I have commit true, which is show the button. And then here I have payment. So what this does is it's going to send a request to my create payment URL, which I'm going to create in Flask. And then that route is going to send a request using the Python SDK to create a payment. Then it's going to return the payment ID for that payment and then pass that along to this next unauthorized function. The unauthorized is going to send a request to the execute payment URL, which is also a route in my Flask app, and it's going to pass the payment ID along with the payer ID. So what happens in between these two is you click the button and the payment function is called. So a request is sent to the payment URL. Once the pop-up opens from the checkout button, you'll be able to log into your PayPal account and then hit OK to pay. Once that happens, the payer ID is sent along with the payment ID to your execute payment URL, and then you use those two to actually execute the payment. So the payer ID represents who is paying you, and along with the payment ID, PayPal will know how much to charge and who to charge, and will deduct money out of their PayPal account and put it into your PayPal account. fairly straightforward. Of course, this will make more sense once you see it in action. So let me show you the checkout form, though. It may not work because I haven't set up the route. It doesn't. So what I'll do is I'll show the network here. And when I click checkout, I'm getting nothing because there's no route. So first thing I'll do is I'll create a route to handle payment. So I'll go back to Flask and I will create a new route. So app routes, and I'll call this payment. So this is creating the payment. So creating the payment means you're telling PayPal all the information about the payment, like what the payment is for, how much it's for, but this is before you actually know who's paying you. So this will be for post request because it's sending a post request in the JavaScript here. So I'll call this payment, and I need to modify this URL. So instead of mystore.com, it's going to be this URL. So 127.0.01 port 5000/payment. It can be anything you want, but that's what I'm creating here. And then I'm creating the payment, and PayPal expects you to return JSON. So I'll create a JSONify there, JSONify. And then what I'll do is I will pass back the information that it needs. So what it needs is the payment ID. So that's what it's asking for here, data.id. I don't like that name, so I'm going to change it to payment ID like it is down there. So it could be ID, it could be payment ID, but I think payment ID is more clear. So I'm going to pass back a payment ID. And for now, I'll just call this payment ID. It's obviously not going to be that, but that's just a good placeholder. So let me try it again to see if that works. So I'll refresh. Then I'll hit checkout. And it seems like my server crashed. And it did. So let me start my server again. Then hit checkout. Clear everything and hit checkout. And now it called payments. If I look at the payment over here and look at the response, I see payment ID over here in the corner. That just means that it called my route successfully. So now to actually create a payment inside of this, I need to use the Python SDK. So here is the GitHub page for the SDK, and it tells you how to install it. Basically, you need to install libssl and libffi. I already have those installed. Once you have those installed, you can use pip to install PayPal REST SDK. So it would be pip install PayPal REST SDK. I already have it installed, so I don't need to install it again, but you'll need to install it to use it, obviously. So now what you want to do is you want to import from there. So let's do import PayPal REST SDK. And I'll just reference that directly, so I won't use from PayPal REST SDK. I'll just continue to reference that directly. So once I have that imported, I can go ahead and actually create payments inside of that route. So to create payments, first thing I need to do is configure it correctly. So this is where the client ID and the secret come into play. So I will just copy this. So this is the configuration. And if you want to get this code, I'll have it for you in the description. So you don't have to copy all this from watching the video. So basically this PayPal REST SDK.configure, what this is doing is telling PayPal who you are. So your client ID is what you got from that one page on the dashboard. So I'll just put mine there. And then the client secret is similar as well. So I have it on the other screen. So I'll just copy that over and I will place it here. Okay, so now that I have the ID and the secret, next thing I can do is create a payment. So here I'm looking for payments equals PayPal REST SDK.payment. So I'll just copy all this because this, I don't want to write it all by hand. So I'll put this inside of my payment route. So there we go. Let me indent this a little bit. Okay, so now let me explain everything that's going on here. So a lot of these are self-explanatory. The intent is a sell. Payment method is going to be PayPal. It's paying from an account. These redirect URLs are mandatory, but they're not actually executed, so I'm not going to modify them. But you could call these return URLs in your JavaScript to do something in the unauthorized. And then transactions, that's the important part. So you have a name. I'll call this test item. SKU is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Price, let's say $500. Currency is USD and quantity is 1. And then the total is going to be 500. So with all this information, this will be sent to PayPal to create a payment. And then once they actually accept the payment, then $500 will be removed from the payer's account and deposited into the merchant account. So really the only thing that you have to know beyond this is how to create the payment. So once you create the payment here, it's not completely created. What you have to do is you have to call payment.create. And it's just a method on the payment. And one thing you can do is you can say something like, if payment creates, I'll print payment success. And then else you can print whatever the error for the payment is. So it's going to be in payment.error. And then the last thing you want to do is you want to pass back that payment ID to your JavaScript. So it's going to be payment.id. So instead of that generic payment ID that I had, it's going to create a real payment ID. So let's go ahead and try to run that and see what happens. So let me clear this out. If I hit checkout and then I look at the payment, I see it actually has a payment ID. So I didn't create that. It was created by PayPal and sent back to the JavaScript. So now that I have that, the next thing I need to do is I need to create a route to actually execute the payment. So I'll create a second route here and let's call it execute. App routes execute. And this is going to accept post requests as well. And then execute, and it's going to return nothing for now. Now I need to modify this execute payment URL. So it's going to be similar to the URL above it, but instead of payment, it's going to be execute. And with that, that URL will be called after the buyer authorizes the payment. So inside of that, it's actually really straightforward what has to be done. First, you need to find the payment. So here, the payment ID is being passed to your execute payment URL. So the payment ID is originally created from the payment. Then it's passed to your execute payment URL. So what you want to do is you want to search for that payment ID. So to do that, you will use, I'll create another variable called payment. I'm going to call the PayPal REST SDK again. Payment, and then find. And what I'm going to do with find is I'm going to use the payment ID that is passed into the route and search for that payment. So it's past this form data. So I'm going to use request.form and I need to import request up here. So request. And now I'm going to get the payment ID. So like I said, the payment ID is passed in from the front end here. Next, what I need to do is I need to execute the payment. So I'll execute the payment in a similar way that I created a payment. So payment.execute. And then I want to pass in the payer ID. So payer ID, it's going to be a dictionary. And I'm passing in request.form.payer ID because the payer ID, which is created whenever the person logs in and accepts the payment, is passed into your execute payment URL. So once you do that, you can say something like execute success. And if it doesn't work, then you can print out the error to the console. And what I'll do is I'll return a JSON object with either success or failure. So I'll create a variable here called success. It will be false. And if it's a success, I'll set success to be true. And then I'll return a JSON object with that. So Jasonify, let's call it success. And then it's going to be the success variable, which is either true or false. So then I'll go back to the index and I'll say something like, there's some data here. So let's call this result. So RES. So print results dot success. All right. So let's try this out. So I'll go back here. I will hit the button, but it looks like my app crashed. And that's because I have a syntax error somewhere. So something with the execute here. So I have brackets here, brackets there. Let's see. What is it complaining about? Oh, there's no colon at the end because it's an if statement. So I'll put the colon here and I'll run it again. Okay, so now let's take a look. Okay, so it's logging me in because I'm logged into my PayPal account in the other tab, and it's telling me that I have a payment of $500 due. It has my fake address there. And before I pay, let's take a look at how much money I have. So I have $5,350 of fake money in my account. So once I hit pay, if everything works, this should close. And it's trying to print a PDF for some reason. So I have to look into that. But let's see if everything was a success. It says payment success and execute success. So now let's look at the accounts. And 5350 is now 4850. So it deducted $500 from my account. Now, one of the problems with this is it's not updating my payments. I'm guessing it would do that later, but the balance is definitely being deducted from. So now if I log into my merchant account, so merchant, and then my merchant password. So this is the sandbox for PayPal. It's not the real PayPal. So if I can remember my password. So it's going to log me in, and it says I have $6,700. So let me try creating a payment again. So now this is $48.50. I'm going to create another payment of $500. And it timed out. So let's see if this can run again. Okay, so now I'll hit pay now. It's processing. And then once the processing is over, my buyer account should have $500 less in it. And it's still trying to print to PDF. So $48.50, now it's $43.50. And if I take a look at my merchant account, it has $67.46. Refresh. And let's see if it's going to take a second for the money to appear in the account. There we go. So now it has $72.31. So like I said, for some reason, the recent activity isn't updating immediately, but it has the $72.31 in there. So it's getting the payments. So that's basically it. And I see the reason why it's printing is because I was trying to use Python syntax instead of JavaScript syntax. So I wanted to use console.log, but basically that's all I needed to change that was different. So it's fairly straightforward how to create the payments. Of course, adding everything around it depends on what your app is about. You'd probably have a page that has some information about what they're buying. And then once they click this checkout button, then they'll be able to actually buy it. And it will all go through your Flask app. So that's all I want to show you in this video. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you haven't been to my website, prettyprinted.com, check it out. I have courses on there that are more in-depth than my YouTube videos. So I think if you enjoy these YouTube videos, then you would enjoy the courses on my website, prettyprinted.com. So there's going to be a link to that in the description below. Like I said, there's going to be a link to the code as well. And that's about it. So if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you have any comments, leave a comment down below and I'll get to it. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please subscribe. So thank you for watching, and I will talk to you next time.